most powerful man on earth. But on one careless night, a single command would change his kingdom forever. Long before our time, in the days when kings ruled with absolute power, there lived a ruler whose name echoed across the world, King Xerxes. His kingdom was not small. It stretched farther than the eye could imagine, from India to Kush. That was 127 provinces, each one bowing to his command. Wherever the king spoke, people obeyed. Wherever he sent his soldiers, nations trembled. Yet power, like wine, can make a man forget who truly sits on the throne of the world. King Xerxes ruled from the great citadel of Susa, a city filled with strong walls, wide streets, and shining palaces. At the center of it all stood the royal throne, high, golden, and feared. In the 3rd year of his reign, the king decided it was time to show the world who he was. Not with wisdom. Not with justice. But with display. So he planned a feast, one the world had never seen. The king invited everyone who mattered. His nobles. His officials. Military commanders of Persia and Media. Princes and governors from every province. They came wearing fine robes, carrying pride in their hearts, and fear in their steps. For 180 days, 6 full months, the king showed them his wealth. Gold everywhere. Jewels shining like the sun. Treasures stacked higher than men. Day after day, the message was clear. Look at my power. Look at my glory. Look at my greatness. But what the king did not know was this truth. When a man tries too hard to prove his greatness, it often means he has forgotten where true greatness comes from. When the 180 days ended, King Xerxes was still not satisfied. So he ordered another feast, 7 days long, this time for everyone in Susa, from the poorest servant to the highest noble. The banquet was held in the enclosed garden of the royal palace. It looked like heaven on earth. White and blue linen hung in the air. Purple cords were tied to silver rings. Marble pillars stood tall and proud. Couches of gold and silver rested on floors made of precious stones, porphyry, marble, mother of pearl. Even the cups were different, golden goblets, no two alike. Wine flowed freely. No rules. No limits. Each man drank as much as he wished. Laughter filled the garden. Music echoed through the night. But wisdom slowly slipped away. While the men drank in the garden, Queen Vashti held her own banquet inside the palace, for the women. She was a queen of dignity. A woman of beauty. A woman who understood honor. Unlike the men outside, her feast was calm, respectful, and ordered. 2 banquets. 2 spirits. 2 paths that would soon collide. On the 7th day, the wine had done its work. King Xerxes was no longer thinking clearly. His heart was high. His judgment was low. Surrounded by cheers and drunken praise, the king wanted one final display, something to crown his glory. So he sent for his servants, Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, Carcas, 7 eunuchs. 7 messengers of a command that would shake the palace. The king said, "Bring Queen Vashti to me. Let her wear her royal crown. Let the people see her beauty." For Vashti was lovely to look at. But this was not about honor. It was about pride. And heaven was watching. The messengers left. The garden waited. Music slowed. Eyes watched the palace doors. No one knew that this moment, this single command, would change the future of queens, kings, and a young Jewish girl yet unseen. Because when pride speaks loudly, God prepares a quiet but powerful response. This story reminds us. Power without humility leads to destruction. Wealth without wisdom blinds the heart. God can use one moment to rewrite destiny. What looks like celebration may hide a test. And what feels like glory may be the beginning of a fall. The palace went quiet. The 7 eunuchs walked swiftly through the long halls, their sandals tapping softly against the polished floors. Torches flickered on the walls as they approached the women's quarters, where Queen Vashti sat among her guests. Laughter filled the room. Soft music played. The women were relaxed, unaware that a storm was coming. Then the messengers stopped. They bowed low and delivered the king's command. "Queen Vashti," they said, "the king commands you to come before him at once. You are to wear your royal crown, so that he may display your beauty to the people and nobles." The room fell silent. Every woman looked at Vashti. She did not speak immediately. She understood what the king truly wanted. This was not a request made with love or honor. This was a command spoken under the influence of wine and pride. The king wanted to display her, not honor her. And Vashti knew something many forget. A woman is not an object, even when she wears a crown. Vashti's heart began to wrestle within her. If she obeyed, she would please the king. If she refused, she would risk everything. Her crown. Her position. Her future. But there was something more valuable than all of these, her dignity. She thought deeply. What kind of example will I set for these women? What kind of queen will I be remembered as? What does honor demand of me? Vashti was not drunk. She was not confused. Her mind was clear. And in that clarity, she made a decision that would echo through history. Queen Vashti stood up. Her voice was calm, but firm. I will not go. No shouting. No insults. No rebellion. Just a quiet, powerful no. She chose honor over applause. Respect over comfort. Principle over position. And in that moment, she lost her crown, but kept her soul. Back in the palace garden, the king waited. The nobles whispered. The music slowed. Then the eunuchs returned, without the queen. They bowed nervously and delivered the message. Your Majesty, Queen Vashti refuses to come. The air changed instantly. Laughter stopped. Smiles disappeared. Faces froze. King Xerxes' face burned with anger. Never, never, had anyone refused him. And now, it was his own queen. The king's joy turned into fury. His pride was wounded. His authority felt threatened. He did not just see a refusal. He saw a challenge. In his anger, he forgot something important. A man who cannot control himself should not try to control others. The nobles around him exchanged glances. Fear crept into their hearts. If the queen could say no, what would stop other women from standing up? The king summoned his advisors, the wise men of Persia and Media. What shall be done? He asked. Queen Vashti has disobeyed my command. The advisors did not speak wisdom. They spoke fear. If this is allowed, they said, women everywhere will hear of it. They will despise their husbands. Order will be lost. So they advised the king to make an example of her. A public punishment. A permanent removal. Not justice, control. And just like that, a decree was written. Queen Vashti would no longer come before the king. Her royal position would be given to another, one better than she. The crown was taken. The palace doors closed. Vashti walked away with no throne, no title, no applause. But heaven took note. Because sometimes, when God is about to raise someone else, he first honors the courage of the one who stood firm. Vashti faded from the palace records, but her decision lived on. She taught the world a lesson. You can lose a position and still win your purpose. You can walk away from power and still please God. You can say no, even when it costs you everything. Her story prepared the way for another woman. A young, unknown Jewish girl. Whose time was coming. This part of the story reminds us. Not every command deserves obedience. Honor is more valuable than favor. God sees the choices we make in secret. What looks like loss may be divine preparation. What feels like rejection may be redirection. Because when one queen steps aside in obedience to conscience, God is already preparing another for destiny. The palace did not feel the same anymore. The music still played. The servants still bowed. The king still sat on his throne. But something was missing. Queen Vashti was gone. And though King Xerxes had ordered it himself, time slowly cooled his anger. When the wine wore off and the noise faded, regret quietly knocked on his heart. But pride would not let him call her back. So the palace did what powerful places often do when something breaks, they tried to replace it. The king's servants came up with an idea. Let a search be made, they said, for beautiful young women from all the provinces. Bring them to Susa. Let the king choose a new queen. It sounded simple, organized, reasonable. But behind this human plan, God was already working. Because sometimes, God hides destiny inside situations that look ordinary, or even uncomfortable. Far away from royal halls and golden cups lived a young Jewish girl named Hadassah. Most people knew her by another name, Esther. She was an orphan. No mother. No father. She lived under the care of her cousin Mordecai, a humble man who sat at the king's gate and tried his best to protect her. Esther was beautiful, but that was not what set her apart. She was gentle, respectful, wise beyond her years. And most importantly, God was with her, even when she did not know what the future held. One day, royal officers arrived in Esther's city. They were gathering young women for the king. No one asked Esther if she wanted to go. No one asked Mordecai for permission. She was taken to the palace. It did not feel like favor. It felt like loss of control. But this is a hard truth we must learn. God sometimes allows us to be taken from our comfort so he can place us into our calling. Esther entered the women's quarters of the palace. The place was filled with perfumes, oils, expensive clothes, dozens of other young women. Each one hoping to be chosen. Each one afraid of being forgotten. To many, it was a competition. To Esther, it was a test of character. She did not push herself forward. She did not fight for attention. She did not brag about her beauty. And God gave her favor. The man in charge of the women was named Haggai. The moment he saw Esther, something stood out. He liked her. not because she tried to impress him, but because her spirit was calm and pure. So he gave her special care. He provided the best treatments. He placed her in the best room. This is a powerful lesson. Favor flows to those who walk in humility. Mordecai had warned Esther, "Do not reveal that you are Jewish." Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And Esther obeyed. She understood that timing matters. There is a time to speak, and a time to wait. Before any woman could go before the king, she had to complete 12 months of preparation. 6 months with oil of myrrh. 6 months with perfumes and cosmetics. It was not just about beauty. It was about patience. While others planned speeches and strategies, Esther did something different. When it was her turn to go before the king, she took only what Haggai advised. No excess. No pride. Just wisdom. When Esther entered the king's presence, something happened. The king looked at her. And his heart was drawn. Not just to her beauty, but to her peace. He loved Esther more than all the others. He placed the royal crown on her head. And just like that, the orphan became queen. Esther did not arrive at the palace by chance. She did not wear the crown by luck. Every step, from Vashti's refusal, to the king's search, to Esther's obedience, was part of God's plan. Because when God decides to lift someone, no background can stop it. No limitation can block it. No fear can cancel it. This part of the story teaches us. God can use systems created by men to fulfill divine plans. Preparation is as important as promotion. Favor follows obedience. You may feel unseen now. You may feel taken out of your comfort. But remember, the same God who moved Esther from obscurity to royalty is still writing destinies today. The palace celebrated. Music filled the halls once again. Servants hurried about with joy. A feast was declared throughout the land. Esther, the orphan girl, was now Queen Esther. A crown rested on her head. Royal robes covered her shoulders. But one thing did not change. Her heart remained humble. While Esther lived inside the palace, Mordecai remained at the king's gate. He was not powerful. He was not famous. He was not rich. But he was faithful. Day after day, he sat at the gate, not to seek attention, but to stay close. Close enough to hear news. Close enough to watch over Esther from afar. Sometimes, destiny hides behind ordinary routines. One ordinary day, Mordecai overheard something unusual. 2 of the king's officers, Bigthan and Teresh, were angry. Their words were low. Their faces were bitter. Their hearts were dark. They were plotting to harm the king. Not loudly. Not openly. But quietly, like poison slipping into a cup. Mordecai froze. He could have ignored it. He could have minded his business. After all, who was he? Just a man at the gate. But Mordecai knew something important. When God allows you to hear something, he expects you to act. Reporting the plot was dangerous. If he was wrong, he could be punished. If the men found out, his life could be taken. Yet silence would make him guilty. So Mordecai made a choice, not for reward, but for righteousness. He sent word to Queen Esther. Esther could have dismissed the message. She was queen now. Busy. Protected. But she did not forget where she came from. She listened. She trusted Mordecai. And she immediately told the king, giving credit where it was due. The king ordered an investigation. The truth came out. The plot was real. Bigthan and Teresh were arrested and punished. The king's life was spared. And the event was recorded in the royal chronicles. But here is the surprising part. Mordecai was not rewarded. No gold. No promotion. No public praise. Just ink on a scroll. And time moved on. Mordecai returned to the gate. Life continued. Esther ruled quietly. The palace moved forward. But heaven does not forget what earth ignores. Because God has a perfect memory. Delayed reward is not denied reward. Around this time, a man named Haman rose to power. The king promoted him above all other officials. Everyone was commanded to bow to him. Everyone, except one man. Mordecai. Mordecai refused to bow. Not because he was arrogant. Not because he wanted trouble. But because his worship belonged to God alone. This quiet refusal stirred something dark in Haman. Pride was wounded. Anger burned. And soon, one man's pride would turn into a plan that threatened an entire people. This part teaches us. Faithfulness in hidden places matters. Doing right does not always bring immediate reward. God records every act of obedience. You may feel unseen. You may feel forgotten. But remember, what is written in heaven will be read at the right time on earth. Thanks for watching. If this story blessed you, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, so more hearts can be encouraged, inspired, and strengthened by God's Word.